Well, it's that time of the week again for Freddy's Power Rankings, and there's plenty to talk about, whether it regards teams or individuals. Brad, nice to see you as always.
G'day, James.
Wow, it's a bit of movement, bit of moving and shaking, particularly...
Business time of season.
Yes,
now,
5 rounds to go and 4 games on 9, Saturday night football. But let's get stuck into it and have a look at how the teams are faring in the eyes of one Brad Fittler. The Newcastle Knights staying in 10th spot on the back of their narrow loss to the North Queensland Cowboys. The Warriors, a little smelly, but staying in 9th, despite a big defeat at the hands of the Gold Coast Titans. Ahead of them, the Tigers, still in finals contention, but they didn't get the job done against the Bulldogs. The Panthers also staying consistent in 7th spot, getting out of jail with 4 tries in the space of 7 minutes. But the Dragons, a big mover, Brad, dropping from 5th to 6th, a big talking point.
Hardly a big move, but there seems to be a little lack of spirit there at the moment. You can see what they've done is built a great season thus far, and that's really helped them out coming to this end of the season. But they want to stay up in that top 4. It is vital to stay in that top 4. So they'll sit around, have a bit of a powwow this weekend, and they're playing up at Centre. Who are they playing this week? They're playing the Warriors, of course. So a team just as desperate. It'll be interesting how they go this week.
The team that has leapfrogged them into 5th spot in your team power rankings, the Broncos, after a 2-point win over the Cronulla Sharks last Thursday night in Brisbane.
Yeah, they were outstanding. Absolutely outstanding, the Broncos. Just showed everything across the board. The Darius move to centres has been a masterstroke by the coach. He's balanced out in the centres. He doesn't seem to get that much ball, but what he does in defence, he makes up. He's defending outside Milford and just really helping him out. They're doing a great job. Lodge came off the bench, came on, ran over 2 front rows to score a try. It's just really indication. Across the board, they're quite dangerous, the Broncos. All
right, let's continue up your rankings. The team on the receiving end there, the Cronulla Sharks, they are sitting in...
Just tipped them ahead at the moment.
4th spot.
Just a foot in front. Their experience, I think, saves them.
They haven't moved from last week, neither of the South Sydney Rabbitohs, on the back of a come-from-behind win over the Parramatta Eels. But in 2nd spot, dropping from number 1 despite a big win over the Raiders, the Melbourne Storm, Brad.
Yeah, as per program. Have a look at the way they get through things. Beautiful pass by Billy Slater. They just pushed Canberra enough just to show their ill discipline, and Canberra's ill discipline come early. I think at the end of that was about 18 or 20 odd points before Canberra even blinked an eyelid. Josh Addo-Carr swooping on a nice little kick. Jerome Hughes doing a fantastic job, and the coach has said he has got the number 7 jersey until it's up to him to let it go. So he's a fine little player, Jerome Hughes, and of course Billy and Cameron, they're just leading the way and keeping them so controlled. And the thing is, they attack you from everywhere. There's some teams that don't do that. I think South, St George, they sort of attack you from certain places of the field, but they're just at you, Melbourne, the whole time. So they're a real threat.
Bit of muscle flexing from the Melbourne Storm, so too the Roosters. And what a game it was always going to be on Sunday afternoon on 9 against the Dragons. But one-sided on the back of a great first half. The Roosters have jumped from 2nd to 1st in your power rankings, Bradley.
Yeah, they did. I think the Dragons, the scoreline sort of showed that the Roosters flogged them. But if you go back, like Joseph Manu and Latrell Mitchell just really had one of their greatest games of the season and broke open the edge of the Dragons. That's where a few of their early points come. And then late when there was a bit of fatigue, James Tedesco, he had that beautiful try where he linked up with Cooper Cronk and then scored 2 of his own. So he was fantastic, James Tedesco. Was absolutely everywhere. And on the back of their defence just out-muscling any side at the moment. And the Dragons just didn't throw much at them. And here's the last try to Blake Ferguson. Beautiful right foot step. Mitch Orbo, lovely ball. But across the park, they are attacking you from everywhere on the field at the moment. So they've hit their straps at the right time of the season.
Teams 1 and 2, the Roosters Storm, is that your grand final at this stage?
Yeah, at the moment, it'd be interesting. The Rabbits play the Storm this week and the Roosters next week. So I'll give you an indication of where the Rabbits are and if they sort of will be at the back end of the season. But at the moment, you've got to say that performance by the Roosters sits them at the top.
All right, so they'd win the grand final if there was one being played this week, yeah? Maybe?
Well, they're playing the Cowboys, so they'd win that grand final. They're all grand finals, James.
They certainly are this time of the year. Let's have a look at the player power rankings, starting from 10th spot on Freddie's rankings. Kerrod Holland, he's made his way in, baby blue eyes.
He's
Nathan
fantastic.
Cleary just ahead of him on the back of that standout performance to get his team home on Saturday afternoon. AJ Brimson next in line, a newbie in the top 10 for Brad. But how good was this man? Wanga Blake for the Panthers in that comeback over the Manly Seagulls.
Yeah, he's been absolutely brilliant. Pretty much from the whole season. He's come up with a few injuries this year. Have a look at that ball. Just the size and the speed and the agility and everything he's got, Wanga Blake. He's just an absolute threat every time he gets the ball. Viliame kick-out, pass on the inside, and there he is. Once he gets the ball in space. I love the way that he timed there. He actually had to get in front of Nathan Cleary to get rid of the Manly defender and knew he had to catch it on his hip. And in the past, he would have dropped that, but just tucked it in, put it in his pocket and scored under the post. He's been absolutely brilliant.
It's good to watch. All right, let's continue up Freddie's player power rankings. Ahead of him, big, bad Sammy Burgess for the Rabbitohs. From 10th to 6th after helping his team to that 6-point win over the Eels. And just ahead of him and freshly back into the top 10 power rankings, Kalen Ponga, despite the Knights' loss, again a standout.
Just a standout. Just class. I mean, that comes through like Kalen Ponga. You look at all these kids coming through from 15, 16, 17, and we see them all through the pathways, and they show a lot of talent. And then they hit a bit of a hurdle when the full-time training and they're stepping up to the NRL. But for some reason, he has just got so much confidence and so much class about what he does. So in a losing team, he's still one of my favourite players to watch. All
right, let's have a look at your top 4 in the player power rankings. Sitting in spot 4, James Tedesco's jumped up.
There's some quality here.
How good was he on Sunday afternoon? Ahead of him from 9th to 3rd, Big Bad Bronco, Tavita Pengai Jr. having a standout season. Someone that slipped from 1st to 2nd, but he is Cameron Smith, so he'll always be there or thereabouts, sitting in the number 2 position. And as we spoke about on Sunday afternoon, Brad, the Ferrari well and truly out of the garage. Latrell Mitchell from 3-1 for the Roosters.
Yeah, one of the big things that players talk about coming back from Origin, how hard it is, and the mental drain that the 6 weeks puts on going back to your club football. But he was absolutely brilliant. That was one of the real great tries. Pushed away his opposition number, and then still had 3 to beat. Last week he was our 3rd pick on the power rankings and just hasn't let up. I've got to say Trent Robinson's done a brilliant job, because you can see how some players don't go back to their club football as well, but he just seems to look so fresh. And he's powering, and his goal kicking last week was brilliant. I think he kicked 8 out of 10 last week, a few from the sideline. This week, most, it was a little bit down, but they're scoring a lot of them out wide, so it'll be interesting how Latrell goes back into the season, but he's giving plenty of coaches headaches.
How good. Thank you, Bradley.
Thank you, James.
Freddie's power rankings after 20 rounds of the competition. Round 21, the first of the last 5 rounds. And, of course, 4 games on 9, Thursday, Friday, and now Saturday football as well as Sunday. How good? We'll see you at the footy.